What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of RA Radio. I am Evan.
And I'm Rome.
And it's been cool, so far to just hear the feedback from you guys on episode 1 and our story, and then Jay's story. And today we're going to share a little bit with our friend Matt Wakelee, who's a coach here at the gym. But before we get into that, what do we have coming up, Rome?
Yeah, guys. So looking into January is going to be a big month here. January 18th is our holiday party. I encourage everyone to show up, bring family, bring friends. It's a great way to connect all of the different classes and have everybody be able to step outside of the fitness realm for a minute and just enjoy each other's company.
What's that look like? Do I bring something? Is it catered?
So the holiday party I have catered. I'm actually hoping, so Scott or Jay or Dan, if you're listening, maybe we can do a little barbecue type thing. Maybe I'll go out and buy some briskets or ribs or wings, and not a competition style, but just, make some really delicious barbecue, and maybe rather than having it catered, do a little bit more in-house. But January 18th is the holiday party, so reserve that date. The very next day, we're hosting the 6th annual Northeastern States Championships. That's a weightlifting meet. So if you're not familiar with a weightlifting meet, it's a competition where it's the best snatch and best clean and jerk. Add those two weights together, and it's called your total. It is an official USAW, so United States weightlifting meet. So you can qualify for national weightlifting meets. You can qualify for American teams and all these different things through this. There will be certified judges. So if you have any interest in weightlifting and you've never seen one before, come out, observe for the day. If you want to compete, come find me and I can help guide you in terms of where are you registering? Are you registered with USAW? Do you have a singlet? What do your attempts look like? It is a sport unto itself, and I'm very familiar with the sport, and I'd be happy to help you. Again, so January 18th, holiday party. January 19th, Northeastern States Championships. And now, the very next day, January 20th, we are going to kick off the second Cut the Junk Challenge. Our first Cut the Junk Challenge had some amazing results. People were losing 10, 15, 20 plus pounds, losing inches. We just handed out Ashley one. She got a great pair of custom-made Nike Metcons that we designed up.
Super jealous.
I think they came out great. I was really jealous, too, when I opened the box. But we're going to run it again, and I think it's going to be a really good way to kick off the new year. Give some people some motivation to clean up their diet after the holiday season, and that'll run for 6 weeks. We'll have a sign-up sheet on the board. We'll get everybody signed up. Everyone will get a booklet, individual meetings, measurements. We'll really get that rolling.
And what does that sort of look like? Like, what am I signing up for if I were to come out for that?
Yes, what you're signing up for, Cut the Junk, in its essence, is we're not weighing and measuring food. We're just making good quality food choices. So now you're more aware of what you're consuming. And you don't have to eat a certain amount of vegetables, or a certain amount of fat, or a certain amount of protein. It's just make quality food choices. And we give everybody a booklet that we made up. It's a really solid booklet that outlines quality food choices, what we're looking to, hydration levels, supplement levels, kind of where you want to be without being crazy about food. We're not like, I'm only allowed 1 cup of rice. This is, okay, you can have some rice, but monitor your other macronutrients, and maybe your next meal you're going to be having some vegetables along with that, not just rice. And again, I was super pumped with the first round of the Cut the Junk Challenge. I think people had great results, and people can repeat it. So if you did the last challenge and you want to do it again, I encourage you to, because it's only going to be a little bit more accountability again, and someone just kind of watching over you. And we can take your measurements from last time and really see the progress that you've made.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity to have some accountability. If you do well with accountability and a little bit of competition, it can help drive you to make good choices. All those things with being plugged in with the community, getting the advice of decisions you're making and feedback and stuff. And, as people are looking to this, upcoming year, I think that's a good opportunity for people who, are trying to look at their body comp, look at their health, make some changes. And that's a good thing you can add into coming in and doing workouts.
I completely agree. And my very last announcement for January, and I know some of you long-term members or know this is coming, but in the middle of January, we're going to put our sign-up sheet up for the RA Open. The RA Open is an in-house competition. It's going to run, in the past years, we ran it for 5 weeks or 6 weeks. We typically do 2 workouts a week. All ability levels are welcome. We're going to have a scale division. We'll have a master's division. We'll have an RX division. And the idea is, again, playing off the accountability of the nutrition challenge. Now, every week, you need to come in and get 2 workouts done. You can be competitive and you want to win it, and that's great, and I encourage that. But at the same time, also use it as an accountability tool. I got to get to the gym at least twice this week. What we've done in the past is also formed teams. I don't know if we'll do that this year. We'll come out with official announcements. But the team aspect is your team's going to hold you a little bit more accountable too, because now your teammates are like, hey, have you made it in? It's still an individual competition, but your team will have an overall placement too and ranking and that type of thing. That really is dictated by how many people come out and decide to sign up and decide to participate. And then again, details will be released, but in the middle of January, I'm going to have a sign-up sheet up. Everyone also gets a custom t-shirt that we make every year. I think t-shirts are pretty cool. I'm sure you've probably seen them in the gym before. I think last year was blue. The year before was white. It's just another great event where we're working on kicking off 2020 with some nutrition accountability, some workout accountability, and a really great way to see the whole atmosphere of our community and get it rolling.
Yeah, I think the in-house open too is a great opportunity. Like maybe you came out to Misfit Toys and you saw the competition and you're like interested in competing, but that's a little intimidating. Like it's an opportunity to do workouts where you have a judge and you have movement standards, but you're still like in your own gym. You don't have a million people watching you, and so you sort of get used to that idea of just like moving with intensity, moving with intention, and, getting to put up scores. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter where you land, and the people will spread out across the thing. One thing I will note personally that I was surprised with last year, or not necessarily surprised with, but just didn't know, is that, like, the open division is pretty approachable. So even if you're not generally, like, a super competitive athlete, you can talk to Rome or whoever else, but like it's not anything crazy. And there are divisions though as well with that, with scaled, open, and masters. Correct. And I the way that I design the workouts is I want everybody to be able to come out and play. If it's RX division, sure, you're going to be able to get into the workout, and maybe at a certain point you can't do that skill or that weight, but there'll be a marker where I'll put a time stamps on, hey, I completed this much of the workout at this point, and that's your tiebreaker. So then you're still getting a score, you're still in that division, even if you can't do a muscle up or you can't do super heavy clean and jerk or snatch. That's okay. Come out and play and challenge yourself. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, this week we're talking to Mr. Matthew Wakelee, who has been a coach here for a while. Talk a little bit about sort of his history with athleticism and work and what he's been up to. And I don't know, I thought it was a good chat.
Yeah, I think we had a great conversation with Matt.
So, we will hand it off to the interview, and we will see you guys next week.
Let's do it.
Yosh dropped a lot of F-bombs in his episode. I think that was probably the most profanity that we had.
Dude, I don't know. Jay was up there. I feel like Yosh drops the like quiet. It's almost like just punctuation slipped in there.
That's his period. Yeah.
But
try my hardest to hold myself back.
I'm sure you'll do great.
Yikes.
So what have you been up to, bud?
The usual. Going to school, got my internship going, almost done there. Coaching here, trying to get my training in at the same time.
Do you have a set amount of hours at your internship?
Yeah, it's about 16 and a half.
No, I meant like in total.
Oh, yeah, I had to do minimum of 140.
Okay.
I'm at like 180 something right now.
Oh, cool. So you could just quit.
I could, but you technically have to go through the entire semester. Since it's a part of an actual program, it's not like I just suck it out myself.
It's not like community service.
So the 180 hours into your internship, is it something you'd want to continue with?
In terms of the field, yeah, definitely. In terms of the area of study, probably not. Like law is very dry.
So to go back on that, if Evan's recording or not. I don't know if he
you're
is.
good.
What's the area of field and what's the area of study?
So I'm going to school for what's called strategic communications, and it's basically in the realm of dabbles in marketing, dabbles in public relations,
Okay.
stuff like that, and visual communications. And the internship I have is actually in the external affairs branch at the Supreme Court in Hartford.
Okay.
And we're basically, all I do is basically deal with media relations, and I write up a lot of speeches, a lot of
Oh, that's cool.
coordinate ceremonies, stuff like that.
Okay.
Anything that you have to do with in terms of if one department wants to communicate with either the public or another department, that goes through our office pretty much.
So with that, would that lead you into like a media career where it would be like if you could dive into something that you liked more? Like off the top of my head, because we're in a gym, I would think like CrossFit Games media or
Right.
things like
You
that.
could be the next Dan Bailey.
I think I'd have to gain probably another 200 pounds.
No, what was it? Say Danny Broflex?
Oh,
The Maddie whatever?
He's hilarious. That character's hilarious. It still reminds me of Todd.
Yeah, dude,
Every
definitely.
time he does that. Yeah, it could. Media relations and in terms of the technical side of that field, you can go into ESPN. You could do
Cool.
newsroom stuff, or you could go again the more marketing route, or you can go the more public relations route. It's a huge field, which is both good and also kind of scary.
Sure. There's so many options,
right.
and you kind of got to sort through and be like, what do I like? What don't I like? Do I
Right.
stay with what I'm doing because I'm already in it?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yep. So
Pull your mic in a little bit. Just
little
a
bit?
little. Yeah, just a little bit. There you go.
I tend to be a mouth breather, so I don't want to.
Perfect.
As
I was
can hear
sketching
right
that in the
now.
last time where I was like, can you hear
Yeah.
me breathing?
It's okay.
So I don't want to,
So you have a complex series of things going on. You're like going to school for media stuff. You're coaching at a CrossFit gym. Used to work at Michael's.
Yes.
Lots of arts and crafts.
Glad-
PTSD montage ensues.
Glad to not be there over the holidays this year.
Yeah. I mean, I know Matt talks a lot about Best Buy. He's another coach.
Other Matt.
Other Matt.
The other Matt.
He talks a lot about Best Buy, and it's like, man, I feel you.
Yeah.
Like I've been in that for it would have been 6 years if I didn't get out of there. So
So it's like this time of the year with the holidays coming and all the decorations. Is that like
we get Christmas stuff probably end of August.
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
crazy talk? The end of
Yeah.
August.
Yep.
So what if I had to ask? What is your craziest Michael story?
Oh man.
We made a plan to rob the cat.
weirdest shit that you saw happen at Michael's?
Probably the most obscure thing that's probably ever happened that I can immediately recall would have to be this woman that came in, and she was looking for silicone mold making supplies.
And you're like, what?
And when a woman comes into Michael's looking for whatever, you don't tend to second guess what it is. And
Yeah.
Sure.
She's making a mold of something, and she's being very vague about it. And we're trying to just ask questions upon questions and try to understand what she wants to do with this project.
Absolutely.
And
Is she making implants?
That's immediately where my brain went to as well.
even worse.
She's making a penis mold?
You are 100% correct. So she does not beat around the bush. She directly tells us, "Yeah, I'm trying to make a mold of my husband's penis
That's awesome.
as a
That's
Christmas
awesome.
gift to me."
To herself. She's like, I'm trying to gift myself a dick.
Yeah, and that kind of catches us by surprise. This is about probably the second year I'm there, so I'm probably about 17. I'm not naive to the point where it's like I've never heard of that thing before.
Sure.
But it's like you're comfortable with telling a 17 or possibly even younger year-old kid that you're making a mold of your husband's penis.
This is sexual harassment on some level.
Yeah, so to my memory, that's probably the thing that sticks out in terms of the
awesome.
most obscure thing I've ever.
So did you give her some good tips?
I had to.
Just the tip?
I had to send her off to my manager at the time because I was just like, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm a little
That's
uncomfortable.
really funny.
That's crazy.
So
That's awesome.
I have no experience in penis mold making, so I couldn't offer her any.
Well, you have YouTube now and
Yeah.
Google. You can fucking do anything.
Absolutely. So I don't know why you had to ask me.
So what was your high school experience like? Both like
Besides dick
yes.
making.
yeah,
Yes.
academically, athletically, like what all do you have going on?
I really enjoyed high school, and I know a lot of people in my generation say, "Oh, I hated high school. I love college. I love getting out of the public school system," and I could see why, but I love the structure of it. I love getting out at 2:00 every day and having the rest of my day to get through homework, which took 10 minutes for
Sure.
me, and then having the rest of the day just to do whatever I wanted. But I had my friends, and I kind of flew under the radar. I wasn't the person to get picked on, but I wasn't necessarily the first person that came to everyone's mind.
Sure.
So I just kind of was able to stick through high school, get through it without any sort of bullying or getting in trouble too much, which was good.
Were you like a cool nerd?
If I had to put a label on it, then yeah, I guess. But I don't
I'm
think
just
enough.
picturing like you weren't like the glasses like get picked on kid, but you weren't
No.
like a jock.
No,
you
absolutely
were the
not.
like
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
plays Halo and hangs out with his friends kind of guy.
Right. So I guess I would label it that, but I don't think enough people knew me to kind of put a label to it. But
Fair
yeah,
enough.
so I mean, I enjoyed school. I had a love for history. So every social science class I had, I probably got 110 in.
Well, that's because you had all the answers on your arm.
Yeah, absolutely. I was full tatted back when I was 15, 16.
With all the history.
Greek history test.
But yeah, I loved it, and unfortunately, I wasn't too much of a sports or at least a team sport player.
Okay.
I played tennis my sophomore and junior year, and I played volleyball my senior year. I
Cool.
was offensive player of the year. Got
Ooh.
120 kills.
Wow.
You can kill people in tennis.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should
Matt's
watch
going
more
to
tennis.
start our Sonny's volleyball league team up again
Yeah,
for
I hope so.
beach
That
volleyball. We
would-
had it for like 2 or 3
Yep.
years. We did
Yeah.
great with it. So if that's the serious thing, if you
Oh, yeah,
want to do it, do it
100%.
up, man.
I love volleyball, and I still have a lot of connections with a lot of the volleyball players from high school. So
Any particular reason for those two sports? Were you like into them, or your family was into them, or just picked it out of a hat? Or
my dad actually the one thing that we kind of had to kind of keep a connection between us was tennis. He was a huge tennis player, a huge golf and tennis follower his whole life. So kind of one thing that we actually were able to connect with whenever I saw him was to play tennis. He raised me on the sport. I wouldn't say I was amazing, but I was decent.
Sure.
And I was able to at least keep up with him. And so in high school, when there was actually a team, it was kind of, I guess, some last-ditch effort to kind of get him to come out and support me and do stuff with me on the side.
Sure.
And so I did one season, went fine, and then the second season, I kind of halfway through was like, I'm okay at it, but I don't enjoy it. I'm not really doing this for the right reasons. The friends that I had were actually already in on the volleyball team from like freshman year.
Okay.
And they always kind of tried to push me to do it. And I was like, I don't think it's my thing. I don't think I'd be any good at it. And so senior year, I decided, I'm not going to do tennis this year. If I'm going to do anything, I might as well do volleyball. And attempted it and liked it a lot. And I really heavily regretted not doing that all 4 years.
Yeah. It sounds like you were really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just naturally being tall and able to jump high
Yeah, you definitely jumped, man.
allowed me to at least build on something in one season. So
they
yeah.
do say volleyball is like the Caucasian basketball.
Yes. Yeah, I actually did try out for basketball in middle school. I had me and my neighborhood friends would play basketball all the time. We had a basketball hoop in my driveway at the time, and I loved basketball. And I thought I was so good because I was the best person in my friends group.
Sure. No way that I'm not making varsity. I'm definitely starting.
Yeah, so I tried out, and it was like 3 or 4 days of tryouts. And on the last day, the coach pulls me aside and is like, hey, come here, I want to talk to you about something. I was like, yeah, how do you think I did? Do you think I made it? What position you want me to play? He goes, about that.
Damn it.
You did really well for yourself, but we don't want you to be on the team per se. How about, would you like to be manager? And I was like, I'd much rather you just tell me to fuck off. Because I feel like you want to be manager is kind of a slap to the face.
Absolutely.
So I enthusiastically declined and never wanted to play basketball another day in my life.
Well, there you go. Done with basketball.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What was your experience with youth sports? Like, I feel like, I don't know if this is my experience or if this is just universal to the experience of, like, being that age and, like, specifically in the generation I was, but I feel like everyone was, like, relatively mean to each other in sort of like a fun way, but sort of picked on each other in a way that was like hard. But it was always like, and it's funny to me now because it's become so like culturally inappropriate. But it was like 6 years of everyone calling each other gay all the time.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The word that I've grown to hate, I guess I'll say it, the word faggot. I hate that word now.
Good.
But I hate that, I hate that I used it so much growing up.
Sure.
And I'd like to say because everyone said it around me, and that's one part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up I played soccer when I was younger. I played it from when I was about 5 years old to about 10. And just boys growing up from that age just used whatever slang they wanted to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a few key people who were, kind of kept their heads down, were quiet on the teams that I played with, but a majority of them were like I'm better than everyone else, I should get more playing time.
Yeah.
If you're worse than me, then you're obviously gay in some sort of way, or you're feminine, or you're just not as manly as me as at the age of 8.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense.
Some nonsense.
Yeah, so
I wonder what the equivalent of that is now. Because, like, I feel like it's interesting how quickly... We were actually having this conversation relatively recently on a film set I was on. I think it was about how, like, Kevin Hart or someone got, like, pulled from the Oscars because of old tweets or something. And basically the conversation was, like, I feel like it's hard to not acknowledge, like, not that it makes it right, but like just how culturally normal all of that was, like 10 years ago, 16 years ago, whatever it was. Like, and again, not that justifies it, but there's a point where it's like, it's sort of a those in glass houses situation to me, where it's like, we're going to cherry pick something someone said 12 years ago. And I'm like, I'm really glad I didn't have Twitter when I was in high school playing sports, because the things we called each other, like, which are horrible. But I guess I just wonder what that is now. Cause I feel like I don't think kids are calling each other faggots anymore, but I don't know what would be the like new edgelord thing to like,
I mean, half the things that I say, my wife has to correct me on because she's like, that's offensive. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was offensive. I mean, everything now is offensive in some certain way.
The podcast is going to get shut down.
Yeah, right? You said some bad things, we're done. But, I mean, you look at that to what you're saying, like to the time of when you're saying it. Did you know it wasn't a good word? Yeah, you knew it wasn't a good word. Did you know it was going to offend someone? Yeah, you knew it was going to offend someone. Right. But did you know that it was so deeply, like, disrespectful, to the core of a whole group of people? No. Yeah, and if you did, you probably wouldn't have said it. And it's the same as now, where a lot of the stuff, as you're saying, you look back on it and you're like, I would never want people to judge me on the things that I said when I was in middle school or high school, because you're an adult. You make different decisions now. The language you used was much different. But I completely agree that the verbiages that all of us used at a certain point of time, especially in youth sports. I mean, me playing sports all the way through my life, like, there's things we said we probably wouldn't say. There's probably things we say now that in 10 years people would be like, I can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
Like, that's horrible.
I'm curious what those things will end up being. But
we'll find out.
So you got through high school, finished high school sports. You went to work at Michael's. When did you start working at Michael's?
Technically the fall of my senior year in high school.
Okay, so the beginning of
yep.
senior year.
Yep.
Was it a deep love of arts and crafts, or you just needed some
Basket
side
making.
cash?
I just can't hide it anymore, man. I love arts and crafts.
Dude, garland.
Yeah,
just,
on my break, I would just go into the back room, open everything up, and just lay in it. No, it's just I'm sure it's the same story that every high school kid had. I'm just looking for money.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just got my car, just got my license, and I need to put gas in it. I want to go out with friends. I had a girlfriend at the time that I want to go out and do stuff with, and so you need money. And unfortunately, it trapped me for almost 6 years, and kept me there by shooting me up the ladder and giving me pay raises, and it's just like, oof.
You'll keep arts and crafting all of the way through.
Yeah, I remember distinctly during the interview where it's like the manager at the time, her name was June, and she was like, so if you had to describe your creative side, what do you do for fun? What do you like to draw? Do you like to paint? Do you like to knit, stuff like that? And I had to completely lie out of my ass.
Big knitter.
Right. I had to tell her that I like drawing a lot, that I had tried my hand at painting, that I really liked nature, so I was good with woodworking. And other than doodles that everyone does on their notebook, I'd never seriously painted or drew or woodworked a day in my life up to that point. But it's just about trying to get hired at the age of 16, and it was just a job. A job.
I mean, as far as most crappy first jobs go, I mean, it served you for a good chunk of time. Most of my first jobs were I worked at a pizza shop for 3 months, and I worked at a grocery store 1 day a week for a while. I didn't do anything that was, I didn't totally hate and bail on relatively quickly. I don't think I had anything for more than 6 months, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was. Do I regret it? No. It was weird. It was a different type of retail situation where it's like the Michaels, the way they run their team and the size of their team and the size of their stores, it was big enough to make a lot of money and to always have stuff to do and to be a big name in terms of retail. But in terms of but it was just small enough to where you worked with the same people all the time. You knew everyone. So I made some really good friends working there, and I loved that environment in a way of getting away from school at the time. It was simple work, whatever. Got away from the house, got away from school, and it gave me a lot. But it's just, man, people are brutal.
Yeah.
And the general public just have no care in the world for who you are as a person, and
they want their shit now.
Right. And the way that I'm sure many retail corporations are run, it's just you're just forced to obey that and forced to fall in line with that. And it's just retail sucks, but the team there I really enjoyed and made a lot of friends. And
I'm assuming it's probably quite the opposite of what we were just talking about with youth sports, where people are giving each other a hard time and making fun of one another and being down on one another, where it sounds like you actually found a real team that's working together to accomplish a goal and supporting one another and trying to help one another out.
Yeah, so we got a lot of feedback because we had about 3 or 4 different store managers during the entire time that I worked there. And every time a new one came in, they would always say, this team is way different than any store I've ever been a part of. And I think it's just because the majority of our workers were kind of in the same age bracket.
Sure.
It was just a younger majority of workers, and we all knew each other, and we all got along. And we actually communicated, which is something that a lot of store managers were surprised about.
Yeah.
They were surprised that
You guys wanted to talk to each other outside of work?
Right.
They stumbled into the Chick-fil-A model of employing all 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like every Chick-fil-A is run by high school kids.
Oh, yeah.
There's one adult, and then it's all children.
Yep.
But anyway, continue.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, again, Michael's was a job. a lot of horror stories, but a lot of good stories. But at the end of the day, it's retail. It's just like, if you can get out, get out.
Yeah.
And I know you said when you went to school initially, you were going to school for environmental sciences.
So
I forgot about that.
So I had to, the whole school and work situation's a long process. So I initially so I started working at Michael's senior year of high school, and I worked there all the way up to last June. Or this June, technically, I guess. And
you're almost a year out.
Almost a year out. Oof! Hold a big 1-year anniversary party.
Dishonorably discharged.
But I initially went to a community college. I went to Manchester Community for 2 years.
Okay.
And I transferred out 1 credit short of getting an associate's, and because I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. And I loved I loved history in high school, so I figured, what can I do with history? I'll be a history teacher.
Sure.
Loved all my history teachers in high school. If I could be like them, great. So I went to Eastern Connecticut University, and State University, and I went there for 1 semester. And the process of becoming a teacher, majoring in history, was just not what I expected.
Sure.
Definitely, this is not what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do now. So I ended up taking a semester off, transferring to Central, and then majoring in environmental science. Because, okay, if history isn't working out, what do I like next? I like being outdoors.
Sure, right?
I like trees.
Let's go
I like
hiking.
trees and shit.
You can tell it's an aspen.
By the way, that is. Rocks are pretty neat. So I did environmental science for 2 semesters, and then I was like, oof, science major is probably not up my alley either. What am I doing? I'm having a crisis.
So at this point, you've already accumulated 3.5 years of college credit. So you've got a ton of college credit, and you're like, all right, now what do I do?
Yep. So I eventually changed my major to strategic communications. I'm in my second semester now with that. Everything's going great. I enjoy it. So
Good.
By the time I graduate, I think I'll end up on the 6-year plan with a 4-year degree.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I mean, with the time taken off, going to part-time because I had to work throughout college.
Sure.
I didn't get any help from mom and dad, unfortunately. So loans and also paying for things, just it happened. That's my timeline, unfortunately, but it'll all come to an end.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unfortunate. It's all experience, right? You kind of weeded out what you wanted to do. I myself spent a semester at Eastern thinking I wanted to be a PE teacher, and similar to you, being like, after 1 semester, being like, nope, get me the hell out of here.
No, thank you. Even the environment of Eastern, I just didn't enjoy. There's just something about that school. It's just like, ugh.
Did you commute there? I commuted there, and I just didn't enjoy my 1 semester, and I already had a bachelor's degree at that point. I went back for a semester of master's degree work, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go be a PE teacher. That looks like the sickest job in the world. I'm gonna play kickball, and I'm out at 2:30, and this is gonna be great.
Right.
And then they show you what it's really about, and you're like, oh. So there's no kickball? So we can't play dodgeball? Damn it.
Yeah, the commute there was awful. I don't know where you commuted from. But...
I was living in Coventry, Connecticut.
Okay.
So it wasn't too far from there, but I was also working full-time.
Right.
Similar to what you were saying, I was working at MediFit, so similar job what I did previous to this, up in Springfield. So I'd work in the morning in Springfield, drive down to Eastern, go take a couple classes at Willimantic, then drive to Coventry, and I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah, it was like an hour if traffic was okay. Yeah. It sucked. And I mean, it wasn't so far different because I've commuted my entire college career. I commute now, so it's like, it is what it is, but it's just, man, especially when the biggest section of commute towards Eastern is a 1-lane road, which I think is like Route 2 or something.
Yeah, whatever it is. In the middle of nowhere.
It just sucks.
So with that, working at Michael's, going through college, before you joined here, what were you doing fitness, health, wellness-wise?
Just playing tetherball at home every day.
Just beating the shit out of that ball.
Yeah.
The goddamn Michaels.
That's a nice allegory for it. We'll leave it at that.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong. No, I mean, so starting in high school, I would go to Planet Fitness with a few of my friends, and back then you just want to look good for girls. You know, I mean, I'm sure 98% of the guys who get into stuff like this probably started somewhere like that.
Did they have the lunk alarm at that point, where they're like, you cannot lift weights?
Yep.
Use the machines.
Where was that?
The one at Enfield.
There's one in Enfield?
Yeah, right across from like the cancer centers on 190.
Not St. Francis.
Okay.
Johnson
Yeah.
Medical Center over there. But at the time, they actually had Olympic benches and barbells.
So they still had barbells and dumbbells. They haven't gotten rid of that yet.
But about a year or two into that, they ended up getting rid of all barbells, and now it's just machines and everything. But yeah, I would go there for about a month or two, not come back for another 3 months, 4 months, go back for another 4 months maybe, not come back for another 4 or 5 months.
Is this like post high school or during high school?
This is high school into like my first couple years of college.
I just picture you as being like 6'2" and a $145 for some reason.
I was 6'1" and like a $140,
okay.
So probably even worse.
You're not wrong there as well.
So you're not wrong. I mean, I'm still tall and lanky now. It was even worse back then.
Yeah.
And
but now you're strong. Strength is relative.
Relative.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I hated going to that place. I also just had no direction. I didn't know what I was doing. I was basically teaching myself through YouTube and Instagram, unfortunately. And through high school, I'd always heard of CrossFit. And I had a couple friends that were wrestlers and football players, and they always did it in the off season or right before school to kind of just to stay in shape. And I think also looking back at it, I think a couple of them actually went here.
Yeah. So with that timeline of what you're referring to, I was actually working with, because Gouch was a football coach, so I was working with Gouch's football team. I was doing all the summer strength and conditioning, and I was also working in the high school.
Yep.
Probably your senior year with the wrestling team, basketball team, and some of the football guys. So, I mean, I definitely had somewhat of an influence at that point, but that was a while ago now.
Yeah. So yeah, I heard about it. I was always tempted to do it. And looking back at it, the image that I had of it is so different to what it actually really is, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I always thought it was all tire flips and sledgehammers.
I thought when the initial image I always got in my mind when I thought of CrossFit was a green turf with sled pushes, tire flips, and like weight vests.
Yeah,
and
well, you're not wrong with that either.
It's not that far
it's
off.
Just a little bit further removed.
Right. So I ended up. I was like, one day I was like, you know, this is it. I Google searched CrossFit gyms in my area. This came up. Blue Diamond came up, and I think Wingman came up. And I planned one day.
When was this?
So this is 2019. So end of March of 2018.
Okay,
right? Gotta be, yeah. And so I planned a day to kind of go around and look at all of them. And I came here first, and then signed up. I didn't go anywhere else. But those, and I'm sure just like everyone else, those first couple weeks, the worst weeks of your life.
Yeah,
super sore,
super gassed. You know.
Did you think you were going to do well?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea.
Well, I just asked because I think I expected it to at least be okay, and it was like a horribly rude awakening.
Right. I mean, well, you have history in at least,
I guess,
lifting heavy. You have wrestling, so you have some sort of strength background.
Sort of.
You know, going into this, I think my back squat PR was my body weight, and which again was a $140 at that point. My bench was probably around the same, maybe a little bit even less. So like I just totally out of my element, and even to this day I can't really pinpoint why I enjoy it so much or why I stayed. But I think over time I really got into. I think if I were to do this alone, I probably would have quit.
It's tough. Right. I was just looking up on my phone. Your first date I have on here was 4/1/18.
Yep. So that was the first no sweat intro right there.
It was 4/1/18.
Yeah.
So it's almost 2 years.
April Fool's Day.
I think I'm actually wearing the same compression pants that I
same
wore.
Outfit.
Same
shirt.
underwear.
Same exact underwear. Haven't washed it since. Good luck,
2
John.
years.
Lucky
later.
on-ramp undies.
Yep. But
So you started CrossFitting, just doing class, doing the thing.
Yep.
I showed up in like June or July or something, and I don't know I guess I'd be curious actually, like what was your experience before that, sort of with the community? Because my experience was like I didn't know anyone, and I'd come from like club fitness, and so I was sort of just like showing up and figuring out what the heck I was doing, and I didn't know how to move, and I didn't know any of this stuff, and I didn't know anyone, and I feel like you were the first person that I sort of like started to like see and connect with and try to talk to. But like, had you been like talking to or hanging out with people at all, or were you sort of doing your own thing before that, or? Because there's a few months there.
Yeah, no. So when I came in, I think the thing that shocked me was like everyone knew each other.
Sure.
And from an outsider's perspective, it seemed like everyone knew each other extremely well.
Yeah.
Like they had been together for years, and some of them have.
Yep.
But like then you'd come to examples where the people have been in the gym probably 2 weeks before me, but they're already like best friends. I was like, this is otherworldly to me. I'm not used to this at all. Yeah, I've had experience in team sports and stuff, but it's just like it's crazy to think about going into a gym and just now you're just instantly in someone's life like that.
Yeah.
But no, until I met you, I was inching slower and slower into this circle. But I haven't until you and Mandy, I hadn't really hung out with anyone outside of or within the gym, anything like that.
And now it seems like, I mean, I'm from an outsider standpoint, but it seems like a lot of the network of friends that I see you guys associating with are people from the gym.
Oh yeah. I mean, Evan and Mandy were the two first people I really got to know, got to hang out with.
We used to hang out with Todd a lot more too. Because Todd got a job, he was around in the same slots as us a lot.
Yeah.
And so we would all hang out together a lot. And so during that initial time of like Todd and Matt coming over, like we all just started hanging out, and then we did Misfits and stuff. But now he's busy being an OT or whatever. But I think that was sort of the initial connection, which actually led to like, it was actually right around Misfit Toys, I feel like, was when we started connecting with other people more. Because Misfit Toys was when we like went out to Acapulco's with like Brian and Leighton and Lauren and a lot of people who, for me up to that point, had honestly been a little bit intimidating as the more like had been there longer, were fitter, various things. And that was the first time that I feel like we sort of started to connect with all those people more, and then I feel like once that happened, it was just sort of like all you're sort of in everything at that point,
right? You kind of break through that wall.
Which to the point of that is anybody that's listening to this that's newer, people want to hang out with you. People want to know who you are. I mean, just put yourself out there. Show up to events. Like people are going to be happy to see you come out and want to like get to know you.
Right. Like we were hanging out. I don't even know the timeline here, but we were hanging out, and then we just randomly asked Brandon to hang out.
We didn't even ask Brandon. So this was at the Donut Run. We were hanging out, and we were like sitting in the car trying to stay warm like before or after the Donut Run, and we had like interacted a little bit with Brandon, but Brandon literally like came over, was like, hey, can I join you, got in the car, and then was like, what are you guys doing after, and like came over and we like got pizza and hung out, and then Brandon has been absconded into our party since then. But I do think to what you're saying, it's like there's definitely a world where like when people have history and relationships, it can seem like this intimidating thing, and I feel like we try to be proactive about like reaching out to newer people and stuff, but there's a certain point too where it's like you're not imposing, like it just if you want to come hang out at Sam's on Wednesday, or you want to go get food after a competition or whatever, or
show up,
just show up, or just say hi or whatever else. Like I don't think anyone's really picky about it, but you do, I think at a certain point, like hopefully everyone pulls you in, but at a certain point I do think you gotta like push your way in a little bit too sometimes.
You can't just bounce immediately after class, put your head down and walk out of here if you want to get to know people. You gotta walk up to someone and have a conversation.
It's almost impossible to even do that.
It really, I hope so. I mean, that by design, I hope so.
Right. You even if you try to force yourself to duck out after class, there's someone that kind of like will say something to you at the end, like, "Oh, nice job. I hope you coming in tomorrow." Whatever it is. Yeah. You're almost kind of like pushed. Not pushed. You're kind of like subjected to it regardless, and I think people just eventually warm up to it. I think there's this kind of like inner fear of cliques that I think come from people growing up or whatever.
Yeah, I mean those sports teams that you're talking about, or whatever model mode you came from of high school or college, that we have these cliques of people where in the gym we try to break down that barrier.
Right. And I think like there's a few people who are better friends, and you are better friends than I am with someone else in the gym.
Sure.
But I mean, and I can see where that can be kind of scary from an outsider's perspective. But yeah, we're just all warming, and I don't know. I mean, if we get along, we get along. I mean,
and there's always people like. I think there's always like different people who people are going to connect with better too, and different seasons of people. Like Todd's been busier, so we haven't seen him as much. But I feel like he's been more plugged in with like the Sarah, Matt, whatever else crowd and stuff. Like, and there's people who hang out, and so it's just taking the time to talk to people and get to know people. I think that's a big thing. Like that's a big thing that I feel like I recognized as like I feel like I was intentional about early on, was just like I remember one day we were like just rolling stuff out after class or something, and I feel like I just sort of started asking you random questions like about your life, and it was just sort of that like that
still happens.
Yeah, it happens all the time on mic now.
Yeah,
but
you have no problem doing that.
No, but you just got to start being proactive about getting to know people, and whether you're asking them about training or asking them about whatever else, just like choosing to engage with people, and then more opportunities present. Which is funny because I feel like it was very shortly after that people started thinking that like we had like known each other and like signed up together, and we're like, oh, where do you guys know each other from? And I was like, here, like 3 weeks ago.
I mean, people even still believe I live with you.
Yeah.
I mean, but to speak to that, we've had, I think, out of the gym 4 or 5 weddings happen from people meeting in the gym where they found their significant other. Yeah, you never know.
We're partners, apparently, according to Mandy's family.
We were at a Thanksgiving thing with Mandy's family. It was just like this like day after Thanksgiving thing, and we're like playing card games with her extended family, and a bunch of people get up to leave, and her like old uncle goes, "So Evan, is that your partner?" and Matt puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, "Oh, I thought you'd never ask." But
we can finally come out with our secret.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's been a good time, and it's been fun to get to like compete together and stuff, and hang out, and I think it's a core part of what I value about the gym is relationships with people, and whether that's the people who you hang out with more often or less often, like it's just cool to see everyone. So like talking about the competition thing and stuff, so like you came into CrossFit, no background in it, started messing around, like. Did you have any goals? Did you start to generate any goals? Was there anything that you were like, I'm really good at this, or I'm not really good at this? Like, what was sort of your experience as far as like what created the buy-in, or was it just like, well, I guess I'm doing this now?
Oh man, in terms of what I'm not good at, what am I good at? especially starting CrossFit, I was just like, there's so many avenues. You've got your gymnastics, you got your conditioning, you got your Olympic weightlifting, you've got your powerlifting aspect.
Speak of Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah, right.
It's just like so it's finding what I enjoyed was difficult at first, but then like you with different workouts comes different opportunities to test different things, and I started really liking gymnastics a lot, and I started really liking Olympic lifting, and I think not because I was good at it, but because there was something to learn, and there was a skill gap there. And I think what's kept me around recently or I shouldn't say keep me around. What's posed my interest recently has definitely been Olympic weightlifting, and so recently I've been focusing a lot on that.
Which is good. I mean, and I found this over the time with a bunch of people. That typically people gravitate towards what they're not genetically great at.
Right.
So you're like. As you said, you're 6'1", and how much do you weigh?
Right now, about 165.
So 6'1", 165. For a weightlifter, you're not the best shape or size.
No.
You know what I mean?
100% no.
Like, at 6'1", you should weigh like 250.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
if we just cut your knees off, you'll be great.
Yes, just my knees.
But with that being said, it's like... you would be much better if you were like, I want to be an endurance athlete.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
100%.
or I want to get better at all the gymnastic-y CrossFit things. You
I hate running.
Yeah, but there you go. And I'm the same boat. I'm 6 feet tall. I weighed, when I first started CrossFit, like 170, 175. And I was like, I need to get stronger because I suck at it. And like 15 years later, I'm still trying to get stronger. But I get that, man. That's what I mean. I hear a lot of that.
It was funny. So this summer, somehow I talked James and Joe and Matt into doing this off-road triathlon with me down at, I don't even know where that was, this Winding Trails place.
It's like Farmington, I think.
Something like that. But so Matt, you know, has run at the gym and runs pretty well. He has mountain biked. And he claimed he could swim.
I technically can.
He technically can
I
swim.
can stay afloat.
I can swim in a pool.
Yeah.
So we pull up to this place.
I can save my life. if I
Yeah,
had to.
that's fair. So it's this like, it's beautiful. The place was incredible, actually. I thought it was really cool. But we get there and we see the lake. And Matt's first thing he says is like, you ever experienced that thing where you see something and you just know that that's where your body's going to be forever?
You ever just see a
gonna
place
die
and you
there.
know you're going to die there?
Yeah.
This is me right now, witnessing that area.
But so James, I was the only one who had done a triathlon before, I think, and I'd done one on the Cape, so I didn't have a lot of experience. We're all a bunch of newbies. James was like sick. He had like mono or
Just
something.
got Lyme disease.
Lyme
Oh
disease
yeah,
or something.
he had Lyme disease, and his
a
like
hurt
one
shoulder.
arm was jacked up for some reason.
I have one arm and Lyme disease.
Yeah, but he had like this super fancy bike. We rented bikes because you could like rent brand new Trek bikes for like $25,
awesome.
which was awesome. They were actually super nice
Oh, yeah, that was
bikes.
super nice.
And then Joe.
He comes in with this 1997 Mongoose.
Perfect.
Full aluminum.
It
His
had-
bike is older than you guys are.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it had like it had I don't even know what they are, the like handlebar guards that like come
Oh,
up
they
off
used
the
to use
sides.
those all the time. Dude. My bike has that on there too. What the hell is that called? You use it like going up a hill. You put your hands on there so you can get like more leverage.
Yeah, but Joe was like, "Look at all these guys like shifting gears." And stuff. And I was like, "Oh, Joe, you're gonna have a hard time
You
with this,
youngsters.
His chain ended up popping off in the trail.
huh?" But so we all line up.
Oh, no.
And it's like the
hurts
launch of the swim. Mandy's there, just filming us, and there's a great video of Matt just looking so scared at the beginning of the swim.
I hit it pretty well.
But I just jumped in and took off basically.
Sure.
Because
You've been training for this.
I've
You're
been
ready.
training for this, and I was.
He swam like 2 days a
Yeah,
week.
you were taking swimming
prior
lessons
to
at
that.
UConn.
But I was like, I need to beat James and Joe was sort of like my big goal, and I was like, and I know that Joe's gonna outrun me, and James is probably gonna outbike me, so
Sure.
I gotta buy whatever lead I can right here. So I take off and. Went through the race, whatever. But so Matt gets in the water, and
yes.
So talk
You
about
want me-
your water
you want me to-
experience.
You want me to take it from here?
Your James story.
Sure. So I already start walking into the water. Everyone's
Running. You're like, I don't need to run.
sprinting into the water. I'm just taking my time because I know I'm going to be in the back of the pack. So about probably 100 meters in of a 400-meter swim, 100 meters in, all the guys, so the guys have to start separately from the women.
Okay.
And all the guys are probably all finishing the swim almost. And the first humiliating point is I hear a lot of ruckus behind me. And sure enough, here comes the group of women that started about 2 minutes after us. So now that all the women have passed me, but there's one person in front of me, probably about 20 feet in front of me, and it's James.
So the two, you're out in the middle of a lake.
Yep. So he turns it's just me and him. We're both swimming, and he turns to me and he goes, "Hey, Wakelee, how you holding up?" And I'm like, and I'm trying not to die here, so I'm like, "I'm all right. I'm doing okay." And he goes, "All right, man." Turns around, probably 10 seconds later, "Hey, Wakelee, I'm not gonna make it."
We're like, uh-oh.
I'm not gonna make it. So I'm like, okay. And he signals to the lifeguard, and the lifeguard has to come and bring him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kept pretty good swimming form for about the first 20 feet.
The length of a pool.
Yeah. So after that, it was pure doggy paddle.
Hey.
a
But he
lot
got
of-
it done.
A lot of quads. I got it done all right, but I really paid for it. I ran. So the next section was bike.
Yeah.
And I ran to the bike section, got on my bike, and of course the start of the bike is an uphill for about probably I don't know quarter of a mile maybe.
Yeah.
So I used up all my quads in the swim.
I forgot about this.
So I probably did not even know how much lactic acid was built up in there. And about 10 seconds into the mountain bike, my legs lock up. I could not bend them. And I've never experienced this feeling in my life. And I was terrified. I remember pedaling and I just go... And I try to get off the bike, but my legs are locked.
You're like a G.I. Joe on a bike.
Yeah, I don't know how to get off this bike. My legs can't bend.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost laying on the ground like this, and I have kids passing me.
Little kids are going by like, what is going on?
Yeah, and their parents are 10 feet behind, like, oh, you okay? You okay? I was like, yeah, I'm feeling starting to come back. I'll be okay in a minute. And eventually they did, and I ended up finishing the race last out of everyone, but...
Well, yeah, out of our group. Although, were you after James?
Yes.
Oh, well, James skipped half the swim. And it was funny because James was all excited to crush the bike leg of it and be like, I'm going to have a better bike split than anyone. But he didn't get any splits because they DNF'd him because he bailed out of the swim. So he did the rest of it, but they DQ'd his chip.
No time. Yep.
Yeah. So it was funny. So, I mean, Joe did great, honestly, for what it was. He's like, my chain kept falling off and I can't shift gears, but Joe was still
Joe did phenomenal.
From everything you guys said, he destroyed the run.
Yeah.
You're he came into that run and just destroyed the run.
He did really well in the swim, too.
Yeah, I mean, he did well in general. He wasn't far behind me out of the water, and that was the whole time I was honestly looking over my shoulder waiting for him to catch up to me and just held him off long enough, I guess. But that run was rough for me because I don't even know how it happened, but for some reason the shoes I was running in, the insoles of my shoes started to slowly creep back, and they came out the back of my shoes.
Weird.
To where they were the toe part was under my heel, and the rest of it was flapping up to here. Huh. And so I'm covered in mud running a 5K, just trying to keep going. And at one point I tried to stop and just shove it back in there, and then it just worked its way back out again. Yeah, it was obnoxious. But it was a fun little event. No one died.
Pizza after.
Yeah,
so that was kind of worth it.
Throughout that story, I had different feelings of maybe I should do that next year. Maybe I should. The only way I'll do that is if you bring a bunch of other people that do no cardio whatsoever leading into it, and I'm like, fine, there'll be a group of us.
Yeah,
we'll do it again.
I'm super down. Joe's talking about doing it again already, so I think there'll be a group of us.
You said there's a series of them, right?
Yeah, they do them every other week through the summer or something. I think
we'll pick one.
We'll
pick one where I'll die.
Definitely not doing it more than once a year.
We'll run Matt through a 3-week swimming intensive.
Oh, I definitely want to swim more next summer. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's one element of CrossFit we don't really get to do. I assume most gyms outside of big competitive gyms don't get to do.
I'd say anybody that lives near an ocean probably gets a little bit more because you can do those beach workouts, but everybody else, it is what it is.
All right.
For sure. So, what's on the agenda for you in 2020?
Graduate.
Nice.
Yeah. Is that this spring? You're graduating?
That's next fall.
Next fall. Cool.
That's part of his 19-year plan.
Yeah. Going on 7. Yikes. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I'm trying not to. I've learned through my young adulthood life so far to just not think too far ahead.
Yeah.
Quite yet.
Do you have any CrossFit goals?
Yeah, so after Misfits, I've already started focusing more on Olympic lifting, but after Misfits, I really want to dial that in. I really want to get stronger in all that, in all those lifts, get stronger overall.
Cool.
Yeah, and just continue to just see progress in any form I can.
Yeah.
I'm not going to completely give up any sort of conditioning or gymnastics. I really like that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think getting stronger in terms of Olympic lifting is definitely going to be my go ahead.
Yeah.
And in saying that, I think that brings up another thing is that it's super cool to see, especially with the it started with Squattober.
Yeah.
Started with Squattober this year. And
It's August.
Swagist. Squay. Anyways. So a lot of people got into that.
Yeah.
And I think after that, with the implementation of RA Strength, you had a lot of people be like, I like CrossFit, I like conditioning, and I like doing all this stuff. But this is really giving me an opportunity to like progress in something that I feel is lacking. And we have a lot of people, like Matt is starting to do like a bulking phase, and he's doing the
getting
RA
into
strength. You know, I'm trying to go into Olympic lifting, and it just seeing all these people that were kind of like, yeah, I'll come to class probably 3 times a week or something. Now they're in here 4 or 5 times a week doing strength work, and I think it's really cool seeing people in the past couple months really commit to something. Not just regular class program, but committing to some sort of program that they want to see themselves better in. And
I think what you're describing is they're not exercising anymore; they're training.
right,
Yeah.
You know, they're exercising with a goal, which is training.
Totally,
Right.
totally.
And I think that's something that, you know, Rome and I, we've talked about a lot, is just sort of like the difference between, you know, wanting to come in and move and, you know, balance out your various movement patterns and stuff and burn some calories and not think about it. And like, for me, what I find really fulfilling is like seeing progress, and like you will get fit and healthy, like showing up to class every day. But it's a little bit harder to track, like you're not doing benchmarks all the time and stuff, so it's a little bit harder. Like I felt good on that like slam ball rowing burpee workout, but I don't know how that compares to last month, whereas like coming in and squatting for a whole month and then seeing what you did, there's a little bit more of like a test, do some work, test again that comes into it, and I think that's something that, you know, increases buy-in for people.
100%. I mean, we talked about like you kind of right, and with CrossFit, I mean, the goal of CrossFit, or the goal of the style of training that we implement, is kind of like you're rising the tide across the board. Like, all right, your gymnastics, your strength, your endurance, everything's kind of rising together, and you're a generalist. But now we're kind of creating a little bit more of specialists that still are generalists in terms of their fitness, health, well-being, but they're just focusing on, hey, my deadlift is getting better. Look at that.
Yeah.
Or, hey, my squat's getting better. I really enjoy this. I enjoy getting stronger. I enjoy seeing all of these PRs on the board. Let's keep going.
And especially with, since it's kind of like, it's not like, obviously there's a few people following their own program, but the majority of people are following either the RA Strength or the Barbell Club or you know, the 5 a.m. Swole Crew.
I mean, a lot of them I'm writing out too, where it's like I write out those things, and I mean, I would like to get kind of everybody into either one of those groups of like Olympic lifting or RA strength or the class programming, and everybody has some auxiliary shit that we throw at them.
Stop looking at me, Rome.
Well, it's cool that they the best aspect of that is that they're starting something new technically with some sort of goal, but they're not the only one in that program.
Yeah.
So like that's why Squattober was so cool, because like a lot of people wanted to get their squat up, but they weren't the only ones doing it.
Yeah.
So they got to come in every day and be like, "Oh, did you do Squattober today?" And it's like, "Oh no, I have to push it off tomorrow." Or "Yeah, I already did it." It's brutal.
Right, commiserate into the suffering, just like class.
And then just to see everyone almost do your own thing, but not be alone in doing your own thing, I think is something that's been key to kind of keep people motivated.
Absolutely.
Every consequential month after that.
Yeah.
Especially with the now December starting, I'm sure it's going to be the same exact thing. And just continue to build on this.
Today was day one.
Right.
Yeah. Do you see yourself, like, are you planning on going pretty much right into just like a heavily Olympic lifting focused sort of like block, or is there any value in sort of like trying to put on 10 pounds and then go into an Olympic lifting block, if that makes sense? Because like specifically, I guess what I would say, again, as someone who trains with you a lot, is like, and not that you can't totally do like a hybrid thing too, but there comes a point where like you can pull a ridiculous amount of weight.
Right.
Standing up that weight may be a different question, you know? And so, like, how are you sort of looking at approaching where are my deficiencies and how am I going to fix those to get these numbers moving?
Right. So the toughest part about, especially this semester, is just having time.
Yeah.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things that I want to do and wanted to do this semester in terms of my training, but I just didn't have time. So some days it's like I can only do class programming today, and then I got to get out of here. So like when I have the time, which is hopefully more in the next couple months, I want to dial back that conditioning, and I want to focus on strength and Olympic lifting, and hopefully in doing that, and obviously eating continuing to eat right, continuing to eat more, will hopefully build up my strength. I don't have to completely get rid of conditioning because, again, I really enjoy that. And once it gets warmer, once the springtime comes around, I'll probably ramp down Olympic lifting a little bit and put conditioning back up, just because we have a lot of stuff going on during the spring and summer in terms
like
of
the 50-miler.
Yeah, not happening.
But to talk to your want of keeping your conditioning, there's definitely a push in the strength world of aerobic capacity, right? And the idea behind your aerobic capacity is the fitter you are, the better your cardiorespiratory system works, the more work you can get done, the faster you can recover, and overall, the more strength gains you can get. So being fit and being able to breathe well and have your heart be healthy isn't going to play against you. It just means you're creating more of a caloric deficit. So if you want to get stronger, you need to consume more calories.
Right. And that was another huge obstacle this semester. Is like, again, I just don't have time.
Yeah.
I can't fit so much time into meal prepping these calories.
Just dump raw eggs into your shakes. Raw eggs on
jar
raw
of peanut
eggs.
butter in the car.
So it's no excuse. I'm sure there are a million ways I could have probably gotten around that a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
it's not the highest priority right now either.
No, absolutely.
Right,
School
right,
is. And it should be.
Right. So
That makes sense. I mean, I'm interested to sort of see how all that goes. And I mean, the one thing I guess that I'd throw in on that is it was interesting. I was looking at, I track all my stuff on my Garmin, and it was interesting. I was just looking at it recently. They have like a fitness graph, basically they call it, which basically tracks like workout intensity and your like perceived exertion and all these things to give you some sort of metric of like your own fitness progression. And basically I peaked right at the like tail end of September, which is right before I sort of took October to just like lift a lot and eat a lot. And it trudged down a bit for sure, but then basically in the last like 3 or 4 weeks of just like getting back on the train, it's back above where it was in September. So even just like putting away for a month and taking a month back on it, like I am more capable than I was at my peak. So, it may be different if you take a 3 or 4 month block off to build some time back, but I wasn't doing much conditioning at all in October, and I didn't lose that much. So I'm sure you'll be plenty capable coming back into it.
And to speak to that is building a base level of fitness, building a base level of strength, it doesn't take long to come back. Like, I haven't lived in the aerobic world for a while, but I'm very confident if I put 3 to 4 months of aerobic work in, I could be fitter than I've ever been. It's just a matter of the thing that I focus on a lot for people is strength, because strength takes a lifetime to accumulate. You know what I mean? It takes a long time to get strong. Not that it doesn't take a long time to develop an aerobic base, but for both of those, stepping away for a semester isn't the end of the world.
Right.
You can always come back and get more.
Yeah.
But cool.
Thanks so much for coming on, Matt.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.